Welcome to The Writer's Dream. This is a show where authors have the opportunity to talk about their writing, how they wrote their books, how they publish their books, and how they market their books. Please visit us on YouTube and Facebook. Both of these sites, you can find us under The Writer's Dream, obviously. Today's guest is Robert Boris Riskin. He is a mystery thriller novelist. Welcome, Boris. Nice to have you here.
Yes, it's very enjoyable to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, your little life story.
Well, my life story is, I think it's a pretty interesting life story.
Good.
I grew up in a house of immigrants. My family came from Russia, and I grew up in a house that my father was a very artistic man. He was a musician and a painter and a lover of music. My house was filled with books all over the place. And so I became very familiar with books at a young age, and I read books that were not appropriate to read, but I didn't know. I just read everything I could get my hands on. And I think that's what began, what stimulated my interest in writing. I didn't know I was going to be a writer, but it just came about. I was brought up, my mother's family were all engineers. So I was programmed to become an engineer.
And did you become an engineer?
I went to school. I did 1 year of college as a engineering student. I was taking math courses and advanced physics courses. And in my first year, something started to bother me. I mean, I was a very good student, a diligent student. I was not a great student, but I was, fair, above average.
You got the job done.
Yeah, exactly. I did what I had to do, but I wasn't enjoying it. And luckily for me, I was drafted into the Army. And I met in my service, I worked for a captain. I was the company clerk. And this captain had been an English teacher. And I told him my dream about that I really wanted to write and not be an engineer. And he gave me the courage to do it. And I began writing while I was in the Army. That was the first time I ever actually tried to write stories. And he would read them and critique them. And then after I was discharged, I went back to school, and I told my parents I was not going to be an engineer. My mother, I think she was devastated.
Now, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Brooklyn.
Ah, yes.
Yes, good old Brooklyn. And at that time, I was not happy to be in Brooklyn. I loved New York City. I used to hang out in the Village. And Brooklyn, to me, was a wasteland, middle-class wasteland. So I was very happy to get out of there, and I went to the University of Michigan and became an English major. And my parents, especially my mother, said, how can you make a living, being an English major? You're not going to learn anything that's going to get you a job. And, of course, she was right about that.
Yes.
But eventually I just kept studying and writing, and unfortunately, I did publish, but I couldn't make a living at it.
So what did you do to make a living?
So what I did to make a living was I went into my wife's family's business, which was a retail business, something I had never thought I could ever do. But somehow or other, it clicked, and I actually enjoyed it. I was able to write for a while, but then family life came in. We started having children, and when you run your own, it was a family-run business, and then I took over because my wife's family, her parents, eventually dropped out, and I took over everything and ran it. So when you're running your own business, it's 24/7.
Sure.
And I would get home, try and write, and my mind would be occupied with all the things going on with the business, and I just couldn't write. So for about 10 or 15 years, I struggled to write, but I couldn't get anything done.
So then when did you first publish?
I first published when I was in college.
Okay.
I had a story in a literary magazine. And my next breakthrough came when I was about 30, and I was already having a family, and I was published in the New Yorker.
Ooh, very nice. What was the story in the New Yorker?
The story was a serious story. I mean, I was writing what I considered serious, literature, not mystery writing.
Right.
And
that which cannot make you any money.
exactly. Although the New Yorker paid very well, but they published this. The story was based on the way I usually write, based on something that happened in my life or in someone's life that I know. In this case, it happened to be in my life. And I used that as the framework of a story. It was about a young man who has an affair with a woman a little bit older than him, and after it's over, he feels very guilty about what happened because he didn't give the woman what he thought she wanted from him, and so he felt this guilt that stayed with him after the affair. And the New Yorker liked it, and I thought, wow, my career is off. I'm on my way, and I got contacted by agents, and
wow,
it was very exciting. But unfortunately for me, my editor at the New Yorker left just at that time, and she, of course, had championed me. And after that, nobody championed me, and I could never get another story published by them.
That seems to be the thing in writing, is you have to find. I had one author who I interviewed here who called it being anointed. You have to be anointed by someone, because you can have the best book and you can do a lot of marketing, but unless you find that one person who sees you as
the person who will go to bat for you.
Not even as the next bestseller, but although I do feel that is what's happening now, is that these agents are looking at you, and are you going to be the next Hunger Games, or are you going to be the next 50 Shades of Grey?
Absolutely.
And how about just the next good book to read?
No, they don't look at that. You're absolutely right there. Agents today are looking for a person who looks good, for one thing. Young is a big help.
Yeah.
If you're young and good looking and you have a story, then they're much more interested in you than if you're not. It's not the story, it's the marketing part of it.
How they can market you.
How they can market you, exactly. So the publishing industry has changed dramatically.
In so many ways.
Especially with e-books now, and it's a whole different ballgame.
So tell me about getting into mystery writing, because what I find, you and I have a few things in common, because I write mysteries as well. When did you first get into and you have a hero as well?
Yeah.
Jake Wanderman.
Jake Wanderman, a retired English teacher.
There you go.
A Shakespearean scholar also.
That's great.
And I based him on a man I knew, a friend of mine actually, who was a Shakespearean scholar. And that's the only part of him that I used.
Okay.
The other parts I just invented. But I thought it'd be interesting to write about a guy who sees everything through the prism of Shakespeare. And so whenever, in any situation, a Shakespearean phrase will come to him, and he would, think it in his own mind or say it out loud. But I came to mystery writing because I had written several novels, none of which got published. And I decided I'm going to try. I loved mysteries. I always read mysteries for enjoyment and, to pass the time. And so I decided, I've read so many mysteries, why don't I try writing one? And my first book, which was Scrambled Eggs, I got excited about Fabergé eggs. I had been to the Forbes Museum, which is not there anymore, unfortunately. And the eggs, if you've ever seen a Fabergé egg, they're magnificent, wonderful works of art. And I just came up with the idea of having them stolen by the Russian mafia and all that kind of stuff. And I had a great deal of fun.
So you were writing a true story, in other words.
Yeah, an absolute. I just kept. I just thought it was. I had so much fun writing this book, much more fun than I'd ever had writing serious literature. I mean, it was just one laugh after another, and also inventing the various plot manipulations that take place, the complications that come in. And of course, I had a great time because I used as my venue, everything I've written in these books begins on the East End in the Hamptons. But then it goes to other places. And in this case, it went to Brighton Beach, where there's a big Russian enclave.
Right.
And also Russia itself. So I have my hero in each of these books, and in the third one that I just finished, he always goes to a foreign country.
That's the fun of it, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So then I have to do research on the foreign country or go to the foreign country myself, which I did. In the second book, Deadly Bones, it takes place in Jerusalem. So I made a trip to Jerusalem and had a great time doing research there and visiting the city and all. And so, and then after I finished the first book, I got it published by a decent publisher. So
who published it for you?
They're called the mystery part of their publishing is called 5 Star Mystery. But it's actually a big publishing company called Gale. Okay. They publish all kinds of nonfiction stuff, very big outfit. And this is just one of their divisions. So I was, I was excited to finally get a novel published. And it did very well. The first printing sold out. And
that's great.
So it inspired me to keep going.
Now, as a mystery writer, I have a question that this is something that I find very difficult in writing a mystery. When I come up with a story, I know how I'm going to start it. And I always love the start because it's jumping in and creating some exciting scene, something maybe very dangerous. And I always know that my heroine, because I have a heroine, she has to come out of it alive at the end so that I can write the next book. We have to bring her to the brink of death in many places in the book, and then she has to live at the end. And I know how the plot is going to end up. But the in-between part where, of course, in a mystery, you always have to provide the reader with clues. Yeah. And some of them are red herrings, and some of them are real clues. Right. And then you have to bring these clues through the story to the end so that it wraps up very nicely. How do you do that? Do you have any devices, or does it just happen? Or?
Well, what I do is I concentrate on characters. I don't concentrate on plot. Okay. I have a vague idea of, again, like you, I try to start the story with an exciting beginning to pull the reader into the story. And as I say, I'm driven by character. So I create these characters that Jake Wanderman, my hero, meets in some way. And I put them into various situations and see what's going to happen. And as they interact, I get the idea as to where to go to the next phase.
I see.
And each phase that I go to, I have to, again, think, where am I going next? What's going to happen? And so I just kind of I lead from one situation to another situation, but I don't know in advance where I'm going.
Oh, I'm too OCD to do that. Yeah. I have to kind of know. And so what I do is just the opposite. Is I take the clues and I take them from chapter to chapter, and then my characters have to follow
Well, that's
them.
a much more efficient way to do it.
I don't know.
I'm very inefficient. That's why it takes me so long to write a novel.
How long does it take you?
About 1.5 years.
Yeah, that's about right. I'm the third one that I'm writing on. The first 2 I wrote in 1 year, and the third one is taking me longer, but the reason why is because now I am involved in marketing.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, you have nowadays, the publisher doesn't do anything for you.
No.
They send ARCs, review copies out, and that's all they do. If you want your book reviewed, you've got to get on to send your own versions of the book out. You've got to contact everybody yourself.
There's several websites
There are lots
where
of
they will
websites.
review it for you.
Yeah, there are loads of websites, and as well as the regular print media. But it takes an awful lot of time
Yeah, yes.
away from your writing.
Right, and I find it's two different mindsets. I mean, when I'm marketing, I'm in one place, and when I'm writing, I'm in a very calm place. I'm in the zone.
Yeah.
You know, and the story is coming, and I'm so enjoying my characters and what they're doing, and I'm
Right.
getting a giggle out of it. And then when I'm marketing, I'm tense because I have to follow this lead and follow that lead, and so many things that you follow really don't work.
They don't, that's right.
Now, in my case, my publisher did everything for me because I self-published.
Oh.
So I did everything. So that's, that's the way I went. But
Yes,
I think
well,
about...
then it takes even more time and more effort.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
and I resent it sometimes because during this last weather situation we had, I got to sit down and do quite a bit of writing, and then yesterday I realized, well, you really have to come back to the real world and get back to all of those emails and people who contacted you, and I find that very difficult.
I find it very difficult and very discouraging. I actually hate doing it.
Yes, I do.
I have to force myself to sit down and take, because I know it's going to take me 2 or 3 hours out of my day just to do all these emails and try and find websites that are going to help me and promote the book, and it just takes up so much time. I find it very aggravating.
Well, I'm beginning to find that the percentage of what you do that's helpful is smaller than I'd like it to be, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And but I have discovered doing this TV program or doing a blog radio program, I think to me is very positive. First of all, I enjoy doing this program, and I feel like I'm helping authors because at the end they get a copy of their show that they can put on YouTube and and talk about it.
It is very helpful.
And it's great talking to other authors.
Yeah, that's fun too. And like you and I belong to an organization of authors, and I'm in a writing workshop. All of that is very stimulating and helpful. But the actual marketing of yourself and self-promotion, they call it shameless self-promotion or something like that. And you have to really become a salesman.
Yes, you do.
And writers essentially are
hermits,
introverts.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. I found it, especially at the beginning, to go out and promote myself. And I still find it very difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, something like this is really easy.
Yes.
Because it's fun to talk.
Sure, sure.
But to actually take the material that we're going to have now, and then you have to go and put it on Facebook and wherever else you want to put it, it takes an awful lot of time and effort.
I have a service where for what I paid for it, I'm able to write 2 press releases a month about myself. After 3 or 4 months, you run out of things to say about yourself, and then it sounds so redundant, and you get kind of embarrassed writing it over and over again. Yeah. So self-promotion is difficult. But tell me about the writing workshop, because I don't belong to one of those, and I'd like to.
My workshop has been around for something like 25, 30 years.
Wow.
It's called the Oshawa Hall Writers Workshop. And it's not easy to get into. You have to submit your work. The woman who runs it, her writing name is M.E. Kerr. She's a writer of children's books and preteen books. She's published, 60, 70 books. She's very well known. And she's an excellent leader. We meet once a week. And what we do, the way it works is 3 people read about 10 or 12 pages, and then we critique what's read. And the idea behind the workshop is we're not there for self-gratification. It's only there so you can get your work published. It's not an ego-driven workshop. It's a workshop, a real workshop, with the idea that we're helping each other to get our work published. And we've had a lot of writers in the group have their work published.
So do they introduce you to agents?
No, we don't do that. You have to do on your own.
Okay.
But we have had agents. She has brought agents to our group to talk to us, and then that particular agent we could submit our work to. But as far as the actual mechanics of of getting your work published, you have to do that yourself.
So you have to do the submission process to the agents.
Yourself.
And now, did you do an agent first, or did you just go directly to the publisher when you did this?
On my book?
Yeah.
I tried to get agents for it. I did a lot of research on what agents to, and I submitted chapters and query letters, talk about time and effort. That went on for months, and I would get you'd send out 20 letters and get 2 responses. I mean, some of them didn't even answer. They didn't say no, but they didn't say anything. You just didn't even hear from them.
You went into the circular file.
Yeah. I mean, I found it so unbelievable that they wouldn't even have the courtesy to answer your query letter.
Yes.
And I couldn't get anybody to take my book on. So I decided I'm going to try submitting it directly to various publishers. And
that worked for you?
That worked.
Yeah, because there's that controversy all the time of should you get an agent, should you get a publisher, and now there are companies that will take your project and tell you how to improve it and then try to help you to get to an agent, and then of course that's costly. All of these things.
Yeah, well, I'm very skeptical about those they call themselves editors, right? Now there are legitimate editors. Who will fine-tune your work for you, but they're not going to submit work for you. You still have to do it yourself.
Right. Now, as far as social media is concerned, everyone tells you you have to, do the Facebook, do the website, Pinterest, Tumblr, all these. How much of that do you do?
Well, so far, all I have done is said I have a website that I did right away. And after a while, I was able to figure out how to get on Facebook with the help of friends, young friends.
That's it. That's the key, friends, Facebook and friends.
Younger ones who knew, who were on it all the time. So I finally got myself on Facebook. Then I was told I should write a blog. So I started a blog. And again, I do all these things, but it's always I'm forcing myself to do it because I don't want to spend the time doing that. I want to write.
Yeah, what I found is helpful with the blog because I belong to a number of blogs, and some of the things people say are so absolutely either egocentric or useless. And I think that to keep your own sanity writing the blog, you write about the book. You write about, well, I'm up to chapter so-and-so, and this character is doing this. You give them like little teasers. You don't tell them anything really substantial, but you give them enough of a tease so they'll say, maybe I'd like to read that
But are
book.
people really interested in reading what you say about your own work?
I have, to tell you the truth, no idea. I don't know. I don't know. What I find the biggest problem is directing people to the blog, is to get to people to read the blog.
Exactly. How do you get people to read the blog?
So
that's why the advice given to me was, I don't remember who gave me the advice, but it was if you begin a blog, do not write about your own work. Just say things that people might find interesting.
Well,
and then they will be drawn to you, and once they read your blog, then of course that you have a link to your website on your blog. So that's the way I try to do it.
That's the advice I was given about Twitter as well, was that you can't get on Twitter and say, well, just read my book.
Yeah.
You have to offer perhaps a writer's tip or some interesting tidbit about the new work you're doing or something like that.
I'm sorry to say that I have still not Twitterized
Me either.
myself.
I have a Twitter account, but I have not tweeted yet.
Neither have I. I have the account, but I never did anything.
Yeah, but I'm very interested in political shows, and I'll watch them, and they all have a Twitter account.
Yeah.
And I get so excited about some of the things that they say that I say to myself, that's how I should start Twitter. I should start tweeting these various talking heads about politics because I'm passionate about it, and then it'll be fun. Because I'm finding that. In my writing, there has to be a certain fun factor. Otherwise, the motivation isn't there. So I'm assuming that you're retired now?
Yes, I'm retired.
And so you can devote
Yeah, that was actually one of the highlights of my life, was that I could stop working and just write all the time. And it was like I was in heaven, absolute heaven. I still am.
So is Deadly Bones a product of your retirement?
Yeah, scrambled eggs too.
Okay, so, both of them.
Both of them, yeah.
So what happens in Deadly Bones? We had Fabergé eggs and scrambled eggs. What about Deadly Bones?
Well, Deadly Bones, he finds he gets involved with a friend of his is an antique dealer. He's not a friend, actually. He's the father of a friend. And the antique dealer gets murdered in Sag Harbor in an antique shop. That's what brings him into the story. And he finds out that he was dealing with forged antiquities.
Oh gosh, my second book is about forged artwork.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because this was also based on a true story. Somebody claimed they found an old ancient, what's it called, box that they used to put the bones of dead people in.
Okay.
And they claimed that this box contained the bones of James, who was supposed to be Jesus' brother.
Okay.
And they had actual writing. They had authentic. Scholars say this is authentic, and then other scholars came along and said it was a fake. It went into the Israeli courts, where it stayed something like 10 years in the Israeli court.
And with that,
nobody ever, and it finally. It had been in the courts for 7 years when I came across the story.
So with that, we're going to have to tell people that they have to read The Deadly Bones because we are out of time.
Oh, my goodness.
What are you writing next?
You can read it on Kindle.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
they're both on Kindle.
No, they fascinate me. So what's next?
Well, my third book was called Deadly Secrets. It's called Deadly Secrets, and it's at the publisher now.
And what's that one about?
What is Deadly Secrets about?
Just quick, what's your topic?
Oh God! All of a sudden, it escapes me. I'm like
that's
Governor
okay.
Perry.
Oh, please. Nobody's like Governor Perry. So, there we have it. It was a good conversation.